Senate has said it would commence the process of reconciling major stakeholders in the Rivers State political situation upon resumption from plenary today. The two chambers of the National Assembly had previously adjourned plenary on March 27 ahead of the Easter and Eid al-Fitr holidays. A statement by leader of the Senate, Senator Opeyemi Bamidele, said pending national issues including fiscal legislations, political problems and security matters would be top priority for the Red Chamber. On the political disagreements in Rivers State, Bamidele said, as we resume, the Senate will work with executive to resolve all the lingering social political issues across the Federation, including the situation in Rivers State. The essence is to ensure that all stakeholders come to terms on the need to address the root causes of those issues and ensure proper reconciliation of all key actors in the overriding public interest. All right, we will start with you, Mr. George. What do you make of this particular story? Let's hear your view on it.
Yes, I think the reason for the coming of the sole administrator, let me put it from that way. The coming of the sole administrator to Rivers State is basically on the strength of making reconciliation.
All right.
That is the first. That should have been his first point of, contact with the parties. All right. But in this case, when he came, what people were expecting was not what was happening.
Okay.
Because, if you look at what is playing out in Rivers State, what can put the house together is all about diplomacy. All right. Diplomacy means that what is not right, all right, can be made right. Does that mean by people coming to an agreement? Does that mean you can push away the other one, but the fresh agreement, that one which you will now make, that will make people understand that yes, all our grievances have been tabled, and then we need, recommendations and solutions to our problems. Because if the president was very observant, and I like the step he has taken, but that the coming of the sole administrator, first of all, is to see that mainly arrive the state, is to call these two parties together, all right, and then if need be, I hope you understand me, set up a panel.
Okay.
That's how it is done, because he will have to use his good office. His good office to ensure that reconciliation is the first point of call. To see how this panel, even till now, they should be still discussing the matter. And then they will come out with the protocol. I hope you understand me, they will come out with the protocol that this, as we resume now, this is how we are going to follow. This is what we are going to do, process by process, until the matter, the reconciliation process will be tidied up. But we see a situation where you came in, you abandoned your first point of call, your primary duty, which is to ensure that there is peace and reconciliation. That's your target, peace and reconciliation. Okay. Of course, because if there's an internal crisis, and the president is interested in settling internal crisis before it blows out. Of course, it's a good ideology from him. Okay. But that he, the administrator, all right, should know his primary duty. Okay. Because his SSG, the president is SSG, all right, has a lot of replic knowledge in this thing that I'm talking about. When you talk about international laws and diplomacy and those other things that are components in trying to put this matter together. Okay. But you see, I understand that politics overshadowed the activities. Okay. Otherwise, critics will not come from any aspect. Okay. Because at this time, when you come in, you should be neutral. Right? The neutrality is that you must hear from this party, you must hear from this party, and then you tell them, look, this is what we are going to do, this is what we are going to do. From what you have said, this is the procedure. You know what I mean? You've now rolled out the procedures of law. You know what I mean? The procedures of regulations, how things are done. You know what I mean? You cite instances where countries, you know what I mean, and states who are falling into such a crisis, this is the procedure they use. Right? Okay. That's the research they should be doing. And then giving us a sound analysis on how they could reconcile these parties as soon as possible.
All right.
Within 3 months, it should have been done. And then what they should be doing by now, you know what I mean, is sending them on training.
Okay.
Yes.
Sorry, Mr. George,
I
might take a very different view on that.
On democratic governance.
That is not the mandate of Abbas in Rivers State. Abbas, in his statement, his maiden broadcast in Rivers State, when he assumed his role as sole administrator, said, and I'm quoting him, he said, "My mandate is clear: to restore law and order, stabilize the polity, and create the necessary conditions for the full restoration of democratic institutions and representation. Nowhere in this mandate do I see my mandate is clear to reconcile warring factions, or my mandate is clear to form a reconciliation committee. That to a large extent, hold on, that to a large extent, it's not his call. Recall that this is an emergency situation. This is a state of emergency. His is to come to restore law and order. And not just to restore law and order, but to calm the polity. And he also said to stabilize the polity and create necessary conditions for the full restoration of democratic institution and representation. It does not have to do with calling the governor to know what is going on in the governor's camp, know what is going on in the FCT minister and House of Assembly members camp. That is no way, it's a clear deviation. If he goes into that, that's a clear deviation. The president said, go and restore law and order and stabilize the polity in Rivers State. That was a clear mandate. So it is not in his place. Supreme Court is the final arbiter, and Supreme Court has given judgment. And what has given rise to the state of emergency is the refusal of these both parties to meet in the middle.
Yeah.
Right? Now, the president declared state of emergency and ordered them to go and work out their situation. And only when that is done, can the state of emergency be, taken out. And mind you, it's an initial state of emergency, which means there is also a possibility of
that it would be extended. Okay.
Of course, after the initial 6 months. Now, the Senate is saying that they are going to mediate into the Rivers State crisis. Excellent.
Good.
Interestingly, the presidency up until now is not, involving himself, because the first time he even did it, there was backlash. The president was taken to court, questioning his rights, his constitutional rights to mediate in a state crisis. And he backed out and said, go to court. Court has given judgment. And they came back to the same president to mediate, and he told them, go and implement what the judgment says. And in implementation, if the Rivers State House of Assembly is to implement that judgment, it is tantamount to the impeachment of the governor.
Okay.
And the governor knows this, and he's dragging his foot to implement that. In fact, in his broadcast after the Supreme Court judgment, he was selective. He implemented selectively because he said that he gave order for the immediate implementation of the local government judgments. But when he came to the House of Assembly and the things he's supposed to do, he now suddenly remembered that he needed to go and study the CTC copy. That it is when he receives it that he will implement. Like, it's not making sense to me. This is a consolidated judgment. Why are you implementing one and then you're leaving the other? We don't have time. I would have looked critically into the Rivers State situation. So when people are pointing fingers at a boss that he is not doing, his mandate is not to reconcile. That is not his mandate. His mandate is to restore law and order, to, calm the polity, and also pave way for restoration of full democratic governance and representation.
Okay.
So if you're even to look into that critically, one would be like, would you fault him if he decides to set up committees to run elections and pave way for this? Because when you say pave way for democratic representation, it is complex when we start breaking it down, what it means, right? So it is not in his place. The warring factions should find a way to come together. And now the Senate is saying they are going to do that.
Yes,
that's what the Senate is saying.
I'm coming. This is what I'm trying to say. Right? I'm in the same shoes with you. But I want you to understand that we have stability. You talk about stability, isn't it? Fine. And stability cannot happen. When there are issues of disputes, and which must be settled peacefully. I don't know, and peaceful disputes are done by negotiations. I don't know, negotiations are the key aspect.
Is it in the position of a boss?
Yes, it's his position.
To
negotiate
between both parties.
Yes, to negotiate between because I'm coming now. He is the middle person now. He has to now make it, listen, as I've said before, set up the panel. The
He's
panel,
not the
I'm
middle
coming.
person.
He was given authority from the president, isn't it? Let's set our politics aside. I'm talking about the real process of stability. If we are talking about stability, because stability cannot, we cannot get stability without negotiation, without reconciliation of the parties. So for him, if he needs to be neutral, this what do you call it? The parties, should be assembled. Of course, there should be a round table. When they sit on a round table and then they pour out their grievances, right? Intelligent stakeholders, people who are experienced both in governance and in politics, should be able to fine-tune this thing and explain it properly to the parties for them to understand. That's what we're talking about. So that from there they can build and make concrete recommendations. We're talking about concrete recommendations to the presidency to say, President, this is what we found out, and this is the position we are able to fund these both parties. You know what I mean? This is what they have agreed, and this is what they are supposed to do. We have been able to let them understand. You know what I mean? And in such a panel, as we are talking now, the Senate also will also bring their representation into it.
Right.
It has to it has to come from both the executive and the legislation. All right, to be able to look at what the Supreme Court has given. You know what I mean? The verdict the Supreme Court has given, and see how these issues, you know what I mean, can penetrate not only on the parties but their supporters also.
All right, Judge, we are out of time already.
Thank you so much, Mr. Judge. Thank you, Miss Laurentia. I really enjoyed myself on this show. All right, this is where we wrap it up.